What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Phillies Sports History for June 5th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. And as has become our tradition, happy hump day. Still can't believe I got yelled at by a parent for one of my teachers saying happy hump day. But this is the world we live in. I feel like completely random, nothing to do with hump day. I decided to switch up my workout routine this week than what I originally planned, and I ran back-to-back days. So I ran again this morning, did another 3 minutes on, minute and a half off, with 2-to-1 ratio, run/jog walk. And I feel like I come out fired up with more energy from running. So it feels good. Still taking it slow so I don't get the injuries that hit me. I think I'm going to need some new shoes, but feeling good. Hopefully you're feeling good on a Wednesday. As we always do, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, which Hall of Famer do you wish spent their entire career in Philadelphia? Brian Dawkins is not available. 57% of you said and agreed with me that it was my boy, Reggie White, the Minister of Defense. Eric Lindros surprisingly came in second. Not so surprisingly, Allen Iverson did not receive any votes on any of my platforms, and I really do think it's because, one, he came back one or two times to play for them afterwards, and he's still so involved in the team. It's almost like he never left. Sometimes people, I think, forget that he left the Sixers for a little while and actually had a couple good seasons out in Denver. But as always, thank you for participating in the question of the day. There'll be another one later in the show. And the Minister of Defense, where will that rank in our nickname tournament? Find out June 21st when we do the Philly Sports Nickname Tournament Selection Show on a Friday. I will release the brackets, break down, go over some of my rationale for why people are seated the way they are, all in preparation for the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament to get started and kick off on June 24th. There will be 64 nicknames, 4 regions, the Cheesesteak, the Balboa, the Schuylkill, and the Ben Franklin. 2 matchups a day. You guys decide. It all culminates with the championship on July 25th. Looking forward to that. It's a good way for us to spend a big chunk of the summer as we transition from our winter sports season and get ready for NFL training camp. But looking forward to that. June 21st is the selection show. The tournament itself kicks off June 24th. You can vote on any of the social media as well as the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531, as well as Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Send me a smoke signal if you have to. But whatever you got to do, make sure you vote and spread the word. Tell everybody, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is the best way to stay in the loop. Jimbo_Mont started to toy around with, while it's still here, I don't know if it's still going away or not, but it started toying with different ways to do questions of the day and maybe even some live stuff on TikTok. So if you are on TikTok, be sure to follow me so you can stay in the loop. Now that the school year is winding down, I should have some time in the afternoons to just experiment and see different ways to grow and make this thing fun. But the nickname tournament is coming June 24th. The selection show will be June 21st. It's a Friday. Gives you the entire weekend to rip into me and bitch and complain about leaving people in, why I seeded people this way. And honestly, just like the NCAA tournament, it's all in good fun. Quick housekeeping note. Yesterday I talked to you about the Bryce Harper MVP odds, and I said 300 or 400. He's actually plus 800, but still the third best odds behind Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani. My thinking is Ohtani will not win it because he's a DH, and ultimately I think it comes down to Bryce just getting hot and being able to take Mookie Betts. But for plus 800, it's worth putting down a little bit of a bet, which I did do. So like I said, it's something if you want something extra to sort of root for this summer, there you go. If you want information on Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, all of that information is in the description. have a meeting coming up next week. So hopefully we'll get more of a firm foundation and understanding on which way and who's coming. And once I can, I will update you on all that as well. Good win for the Phils last night. And hopefully a win like last night, coupled with yesterday's win and being able to take the series from the first place team in the NL Central, might calm down and ease up the people. Well, they haven't played anybody. Well, I mean, the Brewers are a first place team. They also had a 7-game lead or whatever like the Phillies did. 2-1 in 10 innings last night. Bohm hit a home run. Christopher Sanchez has been outstanding. And I don't know what the answer is, because you still need to get him some of the reps, because ultimately I think at some point this summer you're going to need him. But, man, it just amplifies how bad Tawan Walker is, because you have, going back to, if you remember back in 2011 when the Phillies had the 4 aces, I mean, between Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, and Ranger, it's like you have the 4 aces, and Tawan Walker is not pitching like Joe Blanton did. Joe Blanton is kind of like that forgotten guy from the 4 aces, and he was like maybe a 10 or a jack. Tawan Walker is pitching like a 7 of clubs right now. So not sure if the answer is moving Spencer Turnbull or what, but I think we need to do something soon, because maybe a team will take Tawan Walker off our hands and you can get an extra bat off the bench or something. But I don't know. Sanchez looked outstanding, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. Castellanos with the walk-off double, I guess it was last night. It was just one of those games. It was fun. And how good is JT Realmuto? And like, he is slowly becoming he's definitely a likable guy and one of the fan favorites, but I think he's starting to cement himself in his legacy as one of the greatest Phillies of all time. And I don't know. I mean, catcher-wise, you have Bob Boone and Darren Daulton. I mean, I think JT is far overtaking Mike Lieberthal. But, I mean, those are some lofty guys to go. And, I mean, I think JT is in the conversation, and you could make a case that he's better for the Phillies than what Daulton and Boone were. And I know there's a whole generation out there that loves Bob Boone. There's a whole generation of people my age that love Darren Daulton. JT, I think if he wins a World Series, overtakes them. But I still think that 93 team, as evident earlier this week when we did that question of the day, is still loved. So I'm not ready to put him there yet, but I do think JT is in the conversation with Boone and Dutch. Let me know what you think. That'll be a bonus. That's not the question of the day for today, but let me know what you think. Where does JT rank among the Phillies' all-time catchers? I think you certainly have to put him up there, top 3 with Boone and Daulton. But let me know. Send me a text message, 267-495-8531. Boone, Daulton, Dutch, or Daulton is Judge. Boone, Dutch, or JT. Just let me know what you're thinking as far as who's up there as the best catcher in Phillies history. They're hopefully back at it this afternoon to try to complete the sweep of the Brewers. The weather's not looking too hot, though, but we'll see. And then they're heading off across the pond to go to London to play the Mutts. Looking forward to that. It's always fun when things like that happen. And you knew this was going to happen. And if you watched the game on Sunday night, Stott said something to Bohm, and he called him Raffy, and they asked him about it. He's like, yeah, that's my nickname for him. And it comes out that it's because he's tall like a giraffe. Of course, Philly Goat has your Raffy shirts. Go check it out. It's basically a giraffe with number 28 on it that says Raffy on it. Like I said, of course they did. Go check it out. While you're there, check out those shoes. I keep telling you, and it's because it's true. These shoes are awesome. So go pick up a pair of canvas loafers. Get the fans. Get the Schmitties. You want to get the Cape Mays. Whatever makes sense for you, go grab. And then pick up the Raffy shirt. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery. 10% off your order. Get your Raffy shirts. No update on Mishkov. No real updates on the Flyers at all. It's like a slow season for the NBA and NHL due to the just waiting for the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals to start. That means there's been a lot of WNBA talk, and the whole Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, whatever thing is getting out of control. Like, I just don't get it. It's one of those things, and like, I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's not Philly related. I just don't understand, and this is coming from not me. This is coming from women in my life who say catty bitches, and that's the way they're being almost toward Caitlin Clark, which is kind of funny. But since this is a Philly sports podcast, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I will say, though, this is a good time to say, why is there not a WNBA team in Philly? Like, I would love to see it. It would be so much fun. But lots of WNBA in the news. Maybe soon an expansion team coming to Philly. But the whole Caitlin Clark hate, I just don't get it. I mean, I'm not saying you have to like her. But, like, these girls are, like, flying in first class, and there is way more attention now on the WNBA than there ever has, and they're hating on her. And it's like, I heard somebody compare it, which I thought was a great analogy, compare it to the PGA back in the late 90s, 2000s, when Tiger Woods was exploding on the scene, and just how a lot of people hated him, yet they were quiet about it because they realized they're making way more money because of Tiger Woods. And these women are going to make a lot more money the more exposure the WNBA gets. And if they're getting the exposure right now because of Caitlin Clark, go for it. I mean, you're getting girls at a younger age wanting to play as well. Like, my daughter's like, oh, I want to be the next Caitlin Clark. So she's doing what the WNBA has been screaming for years that they wanted to do. And now that she's doing it, they're hating on her. I just don't get it. But I guess it's like they say, haters gonna hate. But all that to say, bring a WNBA team to Philly. If somebody can finance me, I have a whole business plan, business model that could work. If you have the money to invest in an WNBA team, let me be your president of operations. I got you. I don't have any contracts or anything like that, but I have ideas, and that's half the battle. All right, sticking with basketball, lots of Sixers news yesterday. And the rumors appeared that Tyrese is going to sign a 5-year, $205 million contract extension, which is roughly about what we thought. He lost that $40 million because of not making an all NBA team. But a one not surprising, but a surprising rumor that I saw, I believe Keith Pompey, somebody quoted him as saying that Joe might get a 3-year extension for $193.5 million. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because the NBA does it completely different than like the NFL does. And I don't think somehow it doesn't count against their salary cap, but it does. I don't know. And listen, if it's going to keep him happy and it means you're locked in, you're going all in over the next 3 years with Tyrese, Joe, and whoever else, I'm okay with it. It's not my money. And if it's not going to hamper the team from signing free agents, then, hey, man, go get yours. But the other rumor, and this is going back to a previous rumor, all from, I think, like almost the past 2 off season, or even in season. Now the Sixers are interested in Zach LaVine, and I think we talked about this before. Who are they not interested in? Of all the names, though, I think Zach LaVine, to me, is the most intriguing. But who knows what's going to happen. It should be buckle up. We all know how this is going to end, but let's enjoy the ride. Be sure to check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Doing good things over there. They're getting ready to kick off their MLB Clashing Conferences, so stay tuned for that. That's available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. All right, Eagles started their mandatory mini camp yesterday, and James Bradbury was in camp and taking reps at safety. And when asked about it, Nick Sirianni said something to the effect of lots of former corners become good safeties. And who knows, maybe this could be a move that ends up helping the Eagles out. It also might be something, and this is like the next level thinking that Howie Roseman does. Maybe if he gets some reps on tape and start talking about how well he is at safety, upplay his versatility, maybe it'll increase his trade value. So a lot going on there, but James Bradbury is in camp, and he was taking reps at safety. Keely Ringo was starting on the other side alongside Darius Slay, apparently. So lots of questions going into training camp, but looking forward to it because last year when there were not many questions, we saw how that season turned out. But more, hopefully, I did read. I think it was Tim Kerr, not Tim Kerr. I forget who it was, but somebody said that it might have been Tim McManus that Bradbury did walk off to the injury tent. So I'm not sure about that, but we'll keep an eye on Bradbury and see where he lines up today. The other big story was Joe Banner being an idiot and basically said that Devontae Smith should fire his agent because he misread the market, left a lot on the table. And when asked about it, Devontae said, "You can't be counting the pockets of others. I'm where I want to be." And that is the attitude you want. And I know a lot of players and the union and the Players Association are probably not going to like that. But he's like, yo, I got enough money. This is where I want to be. I want to win. And let's do it. And I think for Banner, like I think to borrow a TV reference, Joe Banner jumped the shark years ago. And I think he was good at managing the cap and the numbers and everything, but he really kind of lucked into his job. He was childhood friends with Jeff Lurie, who bought a team and said, "Hey, you want a job?" Now, don't get me wrong. He was good with the numbers, but he cost. There are so many mistakes that Joe Banner made that cost the Eagles a Super Bowl. Whether it be not paying for a receiver, and part of that you'll give Andy Reid the blame. The other part is the whole releasing Jeremiah Trotter before the 2002 season and having 80-year-old, 500-pound Levon Kirkland playing middle linebacker in that Tampa Bay game, bringing in Blaine Bishop, who was obviously hurt. And there's a reason why Tennessee got rid of him. So I blame Joe Banner in part for the 2002 NFC Championship game collapse, as well as having Torrance Small and Chad Johnson and Todd Pinkston and James Thrash as your receivers. So I think maybe you ought to just kind of ride off into the sunset, Joe. Thanks for, I guess, whatever it is you did for us. We didn't win anything with you. You brought us back to respectability. I'll give you that. But shut up. Grown folks are talking now. So just go away, Joe. Go away. But we'll have more on Eagles minicamp tomorrow. All right, today it is Belmont Stakes week. So today we're going to switch it up and do something we haven't done really. Go back to 2004, and on June 5th, 2004, Smarty Fever was running wild across the nation. The Belmont Stakes took place. Smarty Jones was looking to become the first Triple Crown winner since a firm did it in 1978. He had already won the Kentucky Derby by 2 3/4 length, and then the Preakness by 11 1/2 lengths. Everybody was hype, including me. It was just being a horse racing fan and waiting the entire time. I mean, I was not born when a firm won the Triple Crown in '78, so to be able to get ready and see a Triple Crown and have it be a local horse, man, I put a lot of money down on that one. But he went off as a 1-5 favorite, which was the largest favorite or heaviest favorite, I guess they call it, since the 70s when Spectacular Bid and Secretariat were running. There was over 120,000 people that showed up to Belmont Park to watch this race. And then the race started, and Smarty Jones got off to a good start. And then the pace started to pick up, and he got kind of caught with some horses, and he couldn't get settled down. And the jockey said afterwards that was sort of one of his biggest fears about this race, because the Preakness or the Belmont Stakes is a quarter mile longer than what the Derby and the Belmont are. So he finished the first 1.25 miles, which would have been the length of the Preakness and the Kentucky Derby in a time that was just ridiculous, and it would have won every single Kentucky Derby ever except for 4. That's how fast Smarty was going. But there's still that last quarter mile to go, and Birdstone, who was a 36-1 long shot, caught him on the final furlong, which is an eighth of a mile, and cost Smarty Jones the shot at the Triple Crown. And I just remember everybody bitching and complaining because the race was longer. They're like, why is the race longer? It's the Triple Crown. Everyone. And by everybody, I mean it might have been me. But Smarty Jones was a Chester County born horse, so it was a local favorite. I just remember everybody throughout that, after the Kentucky Derby, everybody caught Smarty Jones fever, and we were hoping and praying for a Triple Crown, but it was just not meant to be, as on this day in 2004, Birdstone caught Smarty Jones on the final furlong to win the Belmont Stakes, ending Smarty Jones's Triple Crown bid. No need to feel sorry for Smarty. This ended up being the final race of his career. Went 8-1, just with the almost victory, second place finish in the Belmont. He was named the 3-year-old champion horse of 2004, and then he was sent out to stud. So trust me when I say I think Smarty Jones is doing okay. I didn't really get into the ins and outs, but I know he's had some of his kids that have run in some pretty big races as well. But on this day in 2004, 20 years ago, hard to believe that was 20 years ago. Jeez. Smarty Jones lost the Belmont Stakes to Birdstone in the final furlong. Birdstone was a 36-1 long shot and ended any hopes of a Triple Crown. We have had 2 since, which is still pretty cool to see. But on this day, Smarty Jones fever was running wild all over the country, specifically in this area. I may have lost a lot of money that day, but it's 20 years ago, so I don't even remember. But that happened on this day in 2004. Finally, today, we're going to take a trip down Phillies Memory Lane. And today our spotlight is on Freddy Garcia, a pitcher. He had a 15-year Major League career, played for 7 teams, was pretty solid, 156 wins, a 4.15 ERA, 1,600 strikeouts. He was a 2-time All-Star, won the World Series in 2005 with the White Sox, led the American League in ERA in 2001, was traded to the Phillies in December of 2006 for Gavin Floyd and Gio Gonzalez. The Phillies did not get that version of Freddy Garcia. Instead, they got a guy who had a shoulder injury that plagued him throughout the first couple months of the season, was placed on the disabled list in June, had shoulder surgery in August, and was swiftly out of Philadelphia just like that. He did have 11 starts in 2007, went 1-6 with a 5.90 ERA, 50 strikeouts. Just did not get it together for the Phils. The injuries caught up with him. On the flip side of that, Gavin Floyd had a solid 13-year career. Remember, he was a very, very hyped-up prospect for the Phillies. Gio Gonzalez also had a solid 13-year career. He was a 2-time All-Star, led the National League in wins in 2012, and certainly would have been a major player on that Phillies transition after everything sort of just the bottom dropped out with the 4 aces. He would have been able to kind of pick up the slack for Roy Halladay maybe, and maybe even extend his career somewhat. But no need to worry about that 2007 Phils team. They caught the Mets and won the National League East when Jimmy Rollins famously said, "We're the team to beat." Now, ironically, the trade for Freddy Garcia was the final piece that gave Jimmy Rollins, he said, the confidence to say that. They're like, this dude's a stud. He's won the World Series. He's going to bring some stability. He's going to bring some veteran leadership to this rotation. And Jimmy Rollins said after the trade for Freddy Garcia, that's when he felt the confidence then to say, we are the team to beat. Unfortunately for Freddie, just did not work out. I think he played a couple more years after that. But today's Phillies Memory Lane spotlight is Freddy Garcia, a pitcher who was traded for in December of 2006. Only had 11 starts, and they were not very memorable. But he did get an NL East championship ring out of the deal. But that leads us to today's question of the day. This is definitely not the worst trade, although Gavin Floyd and Gio Gonzalez would have been great additions to the Phillies sort of moving forward during that transition period after the 2011 season. We're not going to include Curt Schilling on this or Scott Rowland because they were disgruntled and sort of forced their way out of Philly. Those are also bad trades. But what is the worst trade in Phillies history? It was when they traded Ryan Sandberg. Was it when they traded Ferguson Jenkins? Was it when they traded for Von Hayes, Mr. 5-for-1? Or was it when they traded Cliff Lee to the Mariners so they could sign Roy Halladay? Why couldn't they have kept both? I think you know where I'm going to go with this one. Years and years and years ago, I would have said it was probably Ryan Sandberg, but I'm telling you, Cliff Lee, if they had him on that 2010 team, I think the season plays out different. But let me know what you think. Which trade is the worst in Phillies history? Ryan Sandberg, Ferguson Jenkins, Von Hayes, or Cliff Lee? Or is it one that I'm not even thinking of? Again, I'm taking Curt Schilling and Scott Rowland out of here because I feel like those were different types of situations. Sandberg, Jenkins, Hayes, Cliff Lee, they weren't disgruntled. They were just, hey, thanks for your service. See you later. But 267-495-8531 gets you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Send me a text message. Leave me a voicemail. Hit me up on social media. What is the worst trade in Phillies history? All in honor of today's Phillies Memory Lane spotlight. Freddy Garcia, who was traded for in December of 2006 for Gavin Floyd and Gio Gonzalez. Let me know what you're thinking. On this day in 2004, Smarty Fever was running wild. Unfortunately, Birdsong had other ideas as he beat Smarty Jones in the final furlong of the Belmont Stakes, ending his Triple Crown bid. But again, he went out, got to be a stud. Don't feel bad for Smarty Jones. We'll have more on the Eagles mandatory minicamp as we get updates. Let me know your thoughts, too, on the whole Embiid thing. I just think that's crazy to give him that contract, especially unless there's some ulterior motive where it makes it easier to trade. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Who knows what the Sixers are doing? I feel as though over the course of my lifetime as a Sixers fan, that has been a very, very common statement. Who knows what the Sixers are doing? Because I sure as hell don't. Also, if you have any thoughts on WNBA in Philadelphia, or you have the money to invest and buy a team and buy into it, hit me up because I have a plan. But let me know your thoughts in all seriousness. Are the girls being petty? Is it just one of those things? Social media, Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Also, too, I'm interested to see where you rank JT and the Phillies' all-time leading catchers as they go for the sweep of Reese and the Brewers today. It's going to be rainy and stormy. Be careful if you're out there. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for June 5th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.